Well,
Perfect.
this is it. I think this is the moment we've all been waiting for, at least us.
Long time coming.
Long time coming.
Yes.
This is the Together We Rise podcast.
What you guys have all been waiting for.
Yes, soon enough.
Man.
I think we'll start off with just giving a kind of an overview of what we think this will be.
Maybe who we are.
Who we are, exactly. So, I mean, we'll start with the right here.
Okay. I'm James Quintero, managing partner of Rise Group Real Estate. I'm also currently a realtor, and so realtor. I feel like what this podcast will bring is just a fresh look on kind of my mind, like going day to day through the life of being a realtor and the market and, you know, the different things that we run into, and just kind of just the view of, I guess, the view of the world through my eyes as well. Like it's not really like this won't be like a curated content. So it's going to be more just organic with what we're dealing with day to day, updates, and just kind of how we see the world and why it may matter or not matter to
Agreed.
you and where you're at in your life. So that's kind of where I see this going.
Right, and I'll piggyback off that. I'm Blaine Johnson, a realtor as well, entrepreneur, have worn many hats in my life, so experience of just life in general is what I think I bring to any room. And my thought process on this podcast is going to be just a melting pot of information of entrepreneurship and just sharp, great minds coming together and having conversations, whether it be serious, whether it be fun and you know, stupid at sometimes. You know, that's what I think a great conversation is when you're talking to friends, family. You can go from a serious conversation to something that's just, you know, very minuscule. So I look forward to it, and
yeah, hopefully have some guests that also
Right.
you know, have other inputs to add and just
Exactly.
different visions of the world. Everyone has a different outlook of
Right.
what's going on in the world. So you're going to get it real
uncut
and
raw.
Yeah.
I'm down for the uncut, dude.
And who's this strapping
This guy.
gentleman to my left?
Yeah, I mean, Cris Lopez, kind of one of the managing partners here, I would say. Hopefully was one of the people that would brought a lot of these people together, you know, brought James, brought Chris, me and Ty, but also through James we got you, and now we have other relationships just because of you, which is pretty cool. So my hope for this, I think, is kind of the outline that we're talking about, which is, you know, some industry news, some life news. I think hopefully we get to pass on a lot of our experience, current experience, but past experience. You know, I think with the combination of who we are and our genetic makeup of our team, we have a lot of experience that we can definitely not just pass on, but really learn from together, which is my biggest thing. So, but I would love to really see people gravitate to this table and share not just real estate experience, but mostly just life experience, because a lot of life experience does play into real estate.
100%.
You know, decision making and finances, and you have babies and kids, and you have to grow up, and
You have to live in a house.
You know, I want a bar where I can make my spritz, because it's a thing now.
Exactly.
Home spritz is a thing now. So
Home spritz are a new thing. And just to give a background of what this is called the Together We Rise podcast, and we are a business.
we're a business, dude.
We're a business.
Which is called
Which is Rise Group, right?
Rise Group. It's
And
not just real estate. What else is
You know,
Rise
our
Group?
four core pillars, I would say, are, you know, real estate, lending, insurance, and, you know, construction. And I think a lot of that has birthed, you know, it's all relatively related to real estate. And I think the real estate industry is the driver for us. I think it's what we're going to be really known for. I think it's where a lot of the, you know, excitement always is going to be. Right. No matter what industry or market we're in, real estate's obviously going to be the one.
The meat of the sandwich.
Ton of it. So, yeah, that's who we are. You know, that's our makeup. You know, we have a lot of cool people here that are attached to real estate in all different facets.
Factual.
Done.
Perfect. Great intro.
Send it.
Great intro.
send
Love to
it.
hear it. I know James has some hot topics. The tip of mine.
I mean, I wanted to let this conversation just kind of grow organically. I mean, I don't really have anything like specific that I want to jump right into. Like, I guess the only other thing
Is what's on everybody's mind is inflation.
9.1.
Let's
Happy
get to
9.1
let's
day.
get to the real. Everybody's freaking out.
Everyone's freaking out.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if everyone really knows what is actually happening right now. Like
Right.
some people do, and I feel like a majority of people don't. And what is so interesting to me is that a lot of people hear this word recession that's being used, and I'll say that I was guilty of this before too. Is like I feel like some people feel that a recession is like a natural disaster that just happens that we have no control over.
Yeah. Like a hurricane.
Like a hurricane or an earthquake, right? Like it happens and then you have to deal with it. Like I feel like that's how people see a recession, which it can be like that, right? Like 2008, 2007, 2008 housing market crash. I mean, I don't know, no one saw it coming, and then it happened,
Which is,
and it's like was kind of out of our control, right?
and that's the main recession that most people, our demographic, remember.
Right. And it's like
Demographic generation, I would say, like, that's the one thing. Like, I got stung by it personally, right? Like, bought my first house like a few years, like 5 years prior to 2008, and it was like, dude, I'm living the American dream.
Sure.
And then
I
am
house.
not living the American dream.
Right.
Because I didn't realize what I put myself in to a certain extent. Right. And it wasn't even I wasn't even one of those people in a bad loan. I was one of those people that just got impacted by other people in bad loans. You know what I mean? So it was like that was my situation. But what I wish someone would have done, and this is kind of, I would say, experience now, is I wish someone would have said, look, you're in a bad situation, but historically, this is going to get better.
It's going to pass.
Right? And that would be something you pass on to your clients now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If they were to feel what they're feeling now, or if there is a dip in the market, hey, you guys bought in 2020, I get it, or 2021, I get it, but you're seeing your values be a little rocky, but this is what owning a homeownership is all about.
Right.
But
Weathering that storm.
yeah, I got stung pretty bad. I remember those days.
And what was it that made you, act on that situation? I'm assuming what did you sell, or what was the sting that
It was, I held on, which was so bad. I
How
held
many
on until
properties did you have?
2011, dude.
How many properties did you have?
I had one, and then we had an investment in my mom. Me and my mom had one, and we actually held on to that one, and then we rolled out of it, made actually good money on it when we hung on to it. But my personal home,
When you say hung on, what do you mean?
we just
Like why what did you have to hang on to? Like why were you hanging on?
we did a modification on that house, and that modified the loan amount, and that was obviously super popular. So it was either you were in two scenarios. You were either, or three, I guess, essentially. But for the most part, it was two things you could do. You could either do a modification, which would adjust your balance with the bank, and you'd have, basically an adjusted amount. So say you buy a house at $500,000. Hey, I'm going to do a modification to its current value. Basically, the bank eats that, and they just kind of readjust your loan. And there's some contract terms depending on the bank you worked with. But the other alternative was I'm going to short sale it,
Right.
or just completely let it go and foreclose. But banks would rather you short sale it.
But why not just keep paying the payment? Was your payment?
That's the thing, is at that time, that's what I'm saying. I wish someone would have just grabbed me and said, look, just keep doing what you're doing,
And
because your value is going to come. And now that same house is worth like $900.
So you felt like you didn't want to continue to pay the mortgage because you felt like it was
just pressure and zero experience or any type
Knowledge
of
about-
knowledge of
yeah.
saying like, hey, you know what? Historically, this is going to happen.
But what was it about it that you didn't like? Like obviously did the payment change?
It was not a payment change. Like I said, I wasn't in a bad loan. I was in 30-year fixed loan.
Right.
But for the most part, I looked at like, oh, I bought this for $565,
And
and
now
it's
it's
worth
worth
built,
this.
and now I short sold it for $239. So when you're
So
looking,
you're just, like,
in
looking at
in
your
your
value.
mind, you're like, my value's dropped almost 50%.
not
or
looking
more
at
than
the
50%.
graph that does this.
Not looking at historical numbers of
Zooming
homeownership,
out,
right? Which is what you preach right now. Like, you got all these different, graphs that are coming out right now regarding recession and appreciation and depreciation.
Right.
And they're trying to coach us to go like, okay, even if I buy now at the height of the market, it's going to go down or it might flatten, but most likely because supply and demand, it goes back up.
And every one of those houses that crashed
Is worth
now
on my block, my old block is worth like probably $700,000 to $900,000.
You were under no pressure for like actually
I didn't
like
default.
losing your job or something.
No,
Yeah.
No, I mean at that time, like I had dabbled in.
You
that
just
was when I
couldn't move
dabbled
from
in
the house.
mortgage,
You just
right?
had to stay in that
But it
house.
was just I had to stay in that house, right? And I was like, okay, cool. Like both of all the people I had rented out the rooms, like so I was fine. Like it wasn't a big deal. It was just, do we want to pay for this asset at that time that isn't worth any value?
Yeah.
What should have happened was, like I said, it should have done a modification at that time and then just took advantage of the new rules that were coming out. And no one coached me on that. So I was like, cool, I'm just going to walk away. And I walked away with cash for keys. They gave me 10 grand. And I was like, oh, I got 10 bands in my hand.
At that time,
That's
you're
cool. Like, that's
I'm gonna
pretty
go buy
cool.
bottles.
I'm going to go do that. And at the time I was like, I just quit my job.
Right.
Like I was like, I'm out. Like I'm just done. Right.
Done with life.
I went to Europe for a month.
I was gonna say
done
you
with
for
life.
sure went on
Dude,
vacation.
I went to Europe for a month, right? And then
How
I
old-
came
how
back.
old are you?
I was 20 years old. I went to
11.
Europe for a month, came back, and was like, dude, I don't want to go back to work.
You were
right?
full of spritz.
Dude, all the Aperol.
You were full of spritz.
God.
Came back and was like, dude, I like pulled a fast one on Best Buy, right? I was working with Best Buy at the time, and I was like, yo, like,
Statute limitation.
you don't want to give me my time off? I'm going out for stress. Full on 90-day FMLA, right?
Yeah.
Had my doctor sign it, all good. Went out. So I went for Europe for a month, and I had like another like 50, 60 days left on my FMLA. So I just like hung out with my family. The last week was like in October of 2011. It was like, I'm not going back to work. I was in Tahoe, and I was like, I'm not leaving this.
This is my life.
This is my life now, clearly. Sent a letter in, I'm not coming back, left all my stuff in my office, didn't even go and get my stuff. Like dry cleaning, like shoes, like I just never went back.
It's amazing to
Blue polo.
It's amazing to that story, like thinking like
this
like
polo right here.
from a recession to losing your house to getting your 10 bands that you felt like you're on top of the world,
great.
flying to a different country,
Yeah.
all these things that you could think could be negatives or whatever it is. It's literally the what life is about, peaks and valleys.
100%.
Like you literally, all that stuff happened. Those trials and tribulations have led you to now where you're at in this moment.
Yeah, and it does play a lot into my decision making. Like when I actually did that, I mean, fortunately, I had a girlfriend at the time that like I helped not buy her a condo, but she bought a condo. Right. And it was just like the timing, like damn near to the week, was like, oh, I can just move in here, right? And I didn't work for like a year.
Would you trade that lesson to have the house back?
No, because I mean, I wouldn't live there. I didn't enjoy.
Right.
I enjoyed living there at the time of my life because I was like early to mid 20s, right? And it was like, okay, cool, home ownership. That's what you're supposed to do, right? Everyone preaches that, but at that time, it's like I wouldn't. No offense to like where I grew up, but I don't want to live necessarily like in Oakley. I wouldn't have the life I have now or the experience that I have now if I would have stayed in Oakley.
That the lesson that you learned is more valuable than the house that you gave up.
100%. So getting out.
It's close.
I mean, yeah, I mean, at that time, I probably would have been, got it wrapped into, just paying for it. I mean, it would have been great if I would have just stuck to it. I would, have one property with, $200,000 or $300,000 in equity. That's cool.
That you could have made another move with, but whatever.
Yeah, or sold it and just whatever. But maybe I would have been eager to sold it for only $100,000 more in equity. Like that's real estate.
When you saw your equity, you're like,
I gotta get out of here, right? Like I just
finally,
made it. It's like being at the table and you're down. I mean, you just hit like
it's like
double down and you're good.
It's like in like 2016, 17, there was gurus that saw the crash coming, right?
Sure.
And I know people that right when I got in the industry, like in 15, 16, I was an agent, and I saw people start to sell their houses. Like the guys that thought they were smarter than everyone, they said, I know a recession's coming. I know it's coming. I'm going to get out now because this is the height of the market.
Right.
It was like 16, 17 maybe, somewhere around there. selling their houses and cashing out, right? Similar to what you would say, like, oh, you right when you hit your like equity that you feel like is, you know, good enough for you, you sell. They would have, if they would have held, like they're selling their house, they probably sold their houses for, you know, $700,000-800,000. If they would have held on, maybe sold last year, maybe $1 million, like they missed out on, you know, $300K worth of equity or whatever the case may be. But that's what happens. Like people get nervous, or they think they're, you know, they think they know what's going to happen. They think they have a crystal ball, they sell, right? Similar to your situation is like, you can say now, like, hey, I wish if I would have kept it until last year, I would have cashed out. But
it's not even that too. It's like, I sold like right when the market began to turn, right? Or there was an upside to it, or you know, basically that 2012 and 13, like I sold at October 2011. Like another 2 years, I probably would have been like, okay, cool. There's light at the end of this particular tunnel, and there's a reason why I bought this, right? You know, I would have been in it for 10 years almost at the time, and things would have just been like, okay, cool. It makes sense, you know. I would have 20 years technically left on the loan.
How much did you put? Do you remember how much you put down on that?
I put down, so I did. We did 10% down, or 5% down.
5% down,
because those loans back then were like crazy creative too, right? Those loans back then. So 565, put 5% down.
They're giving loans to anybody at that time.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, cool. You got a cat, and its name is Blaine Johnson.
Okay,
sweet. Sure. What color is it?
$900,000 loan. Here you go.
Yeah, here you go. So at that time, it was, you know, we thought it was good, but it was a brand new build.
So like 20, like what, 20?
It's like 26,000 down or something like that.
And you walked away with 10 grand. So I mean, that's not that big.
But I also paid a pretty good payment for.
Yeah, but you have to live somewhere. So whether you're renting or you own something, you've been paying into it. You know,
that's the silver lining. You can pull out of it, right?
So I mean, it's like for what I did, I loved it. I mean, would I do it totally different again? Absolutely. You know, I probably would have bought more like a fixer or property that more entry level for, you know, my age, or I would have done maybe just a multifamily and then that concept, right? Like that's the concept you preach to people that are early 20s if they're looking to buy.
Right. And that's like the lesson I feel like with a lot of my clients right now I have is, you know, Uncle Tom and, you know, mom, dad, everybody's trying to guide them, like, or tell them like the market's going to crash. This is, you know, and it's like us as professionals, we're like,
it might,
you know, it could,
yeah.
But it also is like, we don't know. You don't actually know, and if you need it, do it. If you don't, and you could, you know, do what you're doing now, then don't buy a house.
It might crash, right? And like you just said, you need somewhere to live, right? And what's crazy is, I mean, I think what was exposed, and like if I look at some of the things, you know, we're talking inflation, you're talking like, you know, consumer credit card debt is at one of the all-time highs right now, and that's very similar to what was happening at that time. You know, now the difference is what everyone preaches is that the type of loans and the health of lending was nowhere near that it is now.
Right.
But consumer debt is at an all-time high. The psychological, I would say, experience, or what I've seen a lot of people go through at the time, like my friends that also owned homes, they would rather not pay their house payment and pay their credit card bills because their credit cards would give them the day-to-day lifestyle, right? And I think what was weird is like you had people that were living in homes for like 2 years without making a payment because there was there were so many houses that the bank just couldn't keep up with the volume of the notice of defaults.
Right.
During that time, were they raising rates how they are now?
So rates were already what they were now. So if you look at historically, I mean, rates are in the sixes. You know, to get a 6.75 back then for like a normal, you know, loan, but you had a lot more IOs, you had a lot more NAGAM 1% teasers that were out there, and that's the shitty loans that actually crashed the market.
Right.
But you did have people that were getting 30-year fixes in the fives. They were getting, you know, 15 years in the fives. It was just, that's what was happening.
Well, I only ask because like now you see, like obviously we had these really low interest rates for the past, you know, however many years, like really activating the market, getting people out there and buying. You know, obviously everyone's seeing listings go up, selling really fast, having multiple offers on homes, to now, you know, they're seeing, obviously our market was too active. You know, they're trying to slow that down. So you see rates start going up, right? Okay, you know, we don't want to get to the point where our assets are too overinflated or inflated, right? So you raise rates. So obviously, we're seeing a slowdown in the market. We're not seeing as many offers. We're not seeing, obviously, people's payments are going up, so they're kind of freaking out. They don't think they can afford buying, everything that we're all hearing right now. But what I want to know is like, is that what was happening back then, or was it already just?
I mean, my vantage point, I was fortunate to be in the mortgage industry, from like that 2004 to 2007 range, right? Like that was what I was doing I didn't do a ton of volume. I was, working with, Ryan Evanson, shout out to E3, but like he brought me in through a couple buddies that I had met, I was working with through Best Buy, and like it was fun. Like it was a great time. And I'm looking at historical data right now, from 2002 to 2005, rates were, damn near 6%.
The whole time.
The whole entire time. Annual rates were through sixes and high fives.
So it's not like they started raising rates to try to slow down
everyone was booming. Credit was out there. Like you can go get a department store card.
And that was the norm at that time. So
it was normal.
So nobody was like, oh, this guy got a 2.5.
It didn't matter. You were still getting 30-year fixed, 15 years. I mean, like I said, you had the creative programs out there. You had stated programs out there. Everyone was just lending money. And it wasn't just the mortgage industry. It was, like I, at the time coming out of Best Buy before doing mortgages, like it was like, oh, people were getting popped for like $20,000, $30,000 Best Buy credit cards. And they were just littering their house with appliances and TVs. And it was like, there's no way that our economy can support that. Right. And I'm only like 22 years old at the time, where I'm like, okay, cool, let's just go spend your money for you. But you could get a credit card, you could get, a car, you can get a mortgage. Like the economy was just like, we're killing game.
Right.
And cash flow for most businesses.
And they weren't doing anything to slow it down.
Nothing to slow it down. Okay.
I feel like that's like what the difference is now, right? Like they're 100%. They're doing what they can to slow us down right now, right? Like we've had a really good economy for the last however many years. And so would you say that's the main difference of like what's going on now versus what was going on back then?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like like I said, there's a psyche between it. And I think, my personal opinion, because of what I also went through too, is right. Like at that time, I'm mid-20s having access. I think I had like $50,000 in credit, and I also had a HELOC that I put on there just for fun. So it was like really easy just to spend money, because in our mind, home appreciation was
on the uptick,
the thing that you're going to hedge your bet. If I ever get in trouble, I'll just refinance my house and I'll do that. Mm-hmm. Do I think that's happening now? I don't. I know that the health of the market is different. Statistics, economists, all the people that we just pretty much trust to put our own content out and follow up and have these regurgitated conversations. But what I think is that consumer debt is at an all-time high, and we had that concept.
People aren't using their home debt like they were back then.
Not
They're just
yet.
using their consumer debt.
I think it's a yet.
Yeah, right.
I think it's a yet. I think that,
that's what's going to save them from their consumer
That's
debt.
the savior, right? And that's the American dream-ish mentality is,
But if they can't get the values for their refinance to refi their out of their consumer
that's going to be a
debt,
dangerous space.
That's going to be hard for them, right?
That's going to be an interesting scenario. So
let's say lifestyles have been important for people over the last couple of years. We've been trapped in, how our houses. Mm-hmm. So when we're out, lifestyle's a big thing. Buying the things that you want, going on the vacations that you want, racking up your, obviously your auto loans, your credit card loans, things like that.
Yeah.
When money is out of circulation in the economy and there's not as much going around, your business isn't doing that well. Maybe you're not doing as well as you were before.
Right.
You have to get rid of some of that debt. Correct.
Right.
If you can't get rid of that debt by paying it down, what you're saying is some people maybe are hoping that they can refinance that debt or wrap it up into their home.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's not a lot of refinances going on right now, right? Like every statistic around a refinance for the entire nation is down. I mean, double digits down, right? But
Since when, like
it's probably the last 3 months. Mm-hmm. It's been the last 3 months, and if not, maybe 4 going on 4
because
now.
Of interest rates.
Just because of interest rates, right? I mean, you only really refinance for a couple of reasons. A lot of it's like, hey, rate and term. I can get a better rate, and it's fine. My terms, whatever. Maybe I go to a 15-year from a 30-year, but I can just get a better rate. And secondly, it's like, hey, I need the money. I can consolidate some debt, or I need to go make another investment. Whatever it is, I just need to pull cash out. You know, maybe I want to put a pool in, maybe I want to, you know, put an ADU, whatever it is. But for the most part, it's kind of like those two reasons. And you're not going to refi to get a better rate right now. So that's off the table. So rate terms dramatically affected right now. And refinances are probably going to be the people who actually need it or understand, hey, I can actually make money in this market somehow. So maybe I have an investment that's going to do something and make more. So how to entice someone to refinance to get a 6% or a 6.5% is going to be pretty difficult, you know, unless they absolutely in dire need.
Right.
What I think is going to happen is I think a lot of the consumer debt that's going to be out there, people are going to begin to feel it. I mean, what have we been doing for the last 2 years? And you're talking about, you know, 20 million people. It's not a huge number, but 20 million people, Great Recession, right? You know, where have those people been working? Some of them might have went to a different job that's, you know, a little bit more happier and more of a culture fit. But for the most part, where are some of these people working, or how have these people that got displaced during COVID been living? Most likely on credit cards, you know, most likely out of savings accounts. How do you recoup some of that? And what market right now is still holding to absorb that? It's going to be the housing market.
Right.
It's not stocks.
No.
It's not it's not crypto right now. No. It's none of those things. So I think that's going to happen. So if you're asking me back then.
But the good thing is there's a lot of people have a lot of equity in their home.
That's
right?
what it is.
So even if the market, I mean, we've seen the market slow down quite a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't seen a huge drop in prices just yet. We've seen in some areas we're seeing price drops and values not as attractive as they were last.
100%.
But there's still a lot of people still have a lot of equity.
There's a ton of equity. I mean,
there's still an opportunity.
There's a huge opportunity
to take advantage
of that right now. I mean, I don't know what, you know, total consumer debt is to a certain extent. I mean, you know, we could probably interview a handful of people and there's a good chance that they have
credit card debt,
or they have high interest payments or certain interest payments that if you consolidated that and then you would to do a and B scenario, what you're paying for just your house versus and credit cards separate versus combined, you probably would net more money monthly. Right. And if there's anything that I learned from COVID, watching any big, huge conglomerate, big Fortune 100 companies to even just a company like ours or our own pocketbook, is cash flow is everything. And if that dollar's not circulating and transactions aren't happening, do you have enough cash to weather that storm? Right. And that's the same thing for a personal bank account to a business bank account. It doesn't matter. Cash flow is going to be everything. And I think that's where credit now becomes utilized even more, because you have to keep it going. Have to keep paying your payment, have to pay your car payment, have to pay your rent, whatever it is. And a lot of times people open that up to credit. Right. So I think that's I believe that's truly a thing that we're going to see that mirrors a lot of that 2006, 7, and 8 going into the crash. And then everyone said, oh, shoot, not only do I have an upside down mortgage, but I also have $40,000, $50,000 in credit card debt, and I can't have nowhere to park it. So now I just bankrupt. And that's what plenty of people did. Yeah. You know what I mean? Plenty of people just said, you know what, take it all. I don't have to worry about my house because I've already displaced out of it. Right. But I also got 50 bands of credit card debt. Take it. Take my car, take all this stuff. I don't care. I'll start over. Right. And all those people that started over, you know, 2010, 2009, 11, or whatever it was, you BK'd, waited a year or two. You might have caught the housing market on the second boom. Right. And that happened to a few people that I know. Yeah. A couple of investors that we know actually did that. Yeah, I mean,
when I got in the business in like 2015, 16, I had a couple clients that had lost homes during, 2007, 2008, whenever, and were now finally able to start buying again. Yeah. And bought their first homes like 2015, 16, 17, and now probably have $200,000-300K worth of equity.
Crazy. That's crazy to sit there. You made that much money in the last 2 years.
Right. Wow. That's what's crazy about the market that happened right now. Yeah. Is how fast it went up in that short period of time.
And you might lose a little bit of it, right?
Right. But you're still killing it. You're still killing game. I mean, even if you lose $100K in equity, you still might have $200-300K in equity.
And that shifts the market, because all anyone's hoping for in any market, it doesn't matter what we sell, right? No. It doesn't matter. Goods or services, you just want to make sure that supply and demand flip-flop continuously, right? And that's all you're hoping for. Right now, cool. It becomes a buyer's market for however long. But if buyer's market and then rates kind of, soften or stay the same and people just get used to that, I mean, you're looking at a 5-year or 10-year gap of 5 to 7% rates. If they get used to that and that becomes their psyche,
That's the norm.
all
right?
of a sudden the buy and sell keeps supply and demand kicks in. And all of a
Exactly.
sudden, boom, oh my God, I can actually go buy this house. Then it flips into a seller's market again.
Right. And
And
then all they have to
then
do
you
is,
have a rise. You have
Right.
a rise in
right. Or you just rates go down a little bit and it just changes the
changes
game
it
a whole lot.
You know, how many times we go bar hopping and you start at a place where and then all of a sudden it gets flooded, or you go bar hopping and you go past a place and you're like, oh shit, I got to go in there because
It's literally the name of the game right now.
That's it.
It
doesn't
literally
matter.
it's a bunch of followers.
You know, if you got like 40 people at the captain's chest, right, hanging out,
Or do you want to be the guy?
or do you want to be
the guy that goes into empty modern China and say, guys,
You know-
let's get it cracking.
You know what happens though too? Like
And then
sometimes-
everybody starts going in, and then now it's the popping
That's
place.
Right. Or sometimes you like go
Be
like,
the guy.
eat
Be the
lunch
guy.
somewhere, right? Like you go into wherever you're eating lunch and there's like no one in there. You're like
No one in there.
sick. Like I go
love it.
online.
Yeah.
And then when you get your food and then you go to your table and then you kind of look back and there's a huge line out the door. You're like,
I did
sick.
it.
You're like,
I did
sick.
it. I beat
You're
it.
like,
That's the same thing for
I made the
anything.
right
I made the right
decision.
decision. And
That's
that's
anything.
that's what
That's the housing
buyers
market.
need to do right now.
right now, dude?
Dude,
Yeah.
Go eat
hop
at lunch in a place where you don't, no one's there.
You know, but the food smells great.
Yes.
You're like, well, okay, I'm gonna try this out. And then
100%.
everybody, and it might be a new spot.
Dude, I went to go to Marucci's.
Be the
right?
trendsetter.
This is what I'm basically feeling like. I went to Marucci's the other day, and I was like, man, I called Pete. I'm like, yo, I'm going to Marucci's. He's like, yeah, do it. It's like 4:30, dude. I get there at 4:40. They close at 5. I'm like, holding the door. It's like juggling. I'm like, and they're like, sorry, dude, it's over.
dog.
And the loss that I felt of missing out.
And you know what? You know what I'll tell you? Turn around and hit Sourdough and Co. whenever you
I
want.
was pissed, dude. I was like, dude,
New spot. It's a
the
new
loss
spot,
that
no
I
one's
felt
in there.
of getting out of a sandwich that I wanted might be the loss people are going to feel eventually when
Right.
housing market does turn again.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I would have paid $40 for that sandwich at that time. That's the difference.
Right.
That's crazy.
I would have done it. I would have been like, I'll give you $40,000. I was knocking on the door. She's like,
everybody-
no. I knocked on the little window. She's
I'll give
like,
you a
no.
$10 tip. For
Everybody, because
this
Just for
everybody
this,
knows, and it's the
That's the
brand.
sandwich I wanted. I wanted it.
But also
dude.
you wanted it. So
Right.
yeah.
And that's the thing is, I wanted it.
Need it.
I've been pissed. I was pissed.
So there's this article on Keeping Current Matters that I was talking about the other day, and it says it starts off by saying according to a recent survey, more and more Americans are concerned about a possible recession. Okay, yeah, boom. Those concerns were validated when the Federal Reserve met and confirmed they were strongly committed to bringing down inflation. So we know that inflation is a thing, right? That's happening. And we know that the Federal Reserve is committed to bringing down inflation.
They're
right?
acknowledging it.
They're acknowledging it. And in order to do so, they were going to use their tools and influences to slow down the economy. So they're acknowledging inflation. They're I think why I have so much hope is because I feel like even though there's been a great run for the last, since 2010 of real estate and everything, I still feel like there's always been an undertone of what happened in 2000 and
Oh, it stung
7.
people bad. It's an
Right, so
aroma
people-
that is disgusting.
It's lingering.
Which is good, right? Because people are
Yeah.
I feel like it's caused or it's forced people to make better decisions
Yeah,
with their housing since then, right?
Absolutely.
Now we're in 2022. We understand that we've had a crazy housing market, tons of equity building, tons of appreciation, and just economy in general, right? And the Federal Reserve is acknowledging inflation and doing what they can to control it, right? To using their tools and influences. So the way that I see what's going on in the economy right now is that the Federal Reserve is increasing interest rates to control inflation.
100%.
What's happening right now is not a natural disaster that we don't have control over. It's something that's being
It's manipulated.
It's
Monitored,
being
right?
manipulated.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
I don't think everyone fully understands that. Now, that's not to say that when they do it doesn't cause other domino effects on other things.
It triggers other things in the economy for sure.
Right. However, I don't want people to think that this is something that's just happening and our economy is in this, turmoil right now because of, like something that we don't have control over, right? So it seems like we're doing this on purpose to ourselves.
Right.
The other thing I want to point out from this article is that over the last 6 recessions since the 1980s, there's been 6, right? 1980s, 1981 to 82, 1990s, 2000s. 2007 through 2009, and then COVID, which was 2020 through 20. It was only a couple months. The longest recession during those last 6 was 2007 through 2009, which was a year and 6 months, is what it says here. Also, during each one of those recessions, the interest rates started high and ended low, right? Mm-hmm. So we know that we're going into a recession. We know that like this is what is happening right now. Interest rates are up. People aren't buying. You know, it's expensive to borrow money. They're trying to slow down the money that's in the economy because there's just too much in the economy right now. But the longest one has been 2 years. Mm-hmm. I think on average here, the average is about 8 months.
8 months,
yeah.
So, you know, we don't know how far we really are into. We're not going to be able to tell until it's over with how long it was going to be or how long it's been or, you know, what rates started at. But it seems like we're at the height of the rates. It seems like we're at the beginning of the recession. And my hope is that it's not going to last more than 6 to 8 months and that we're going to see rates go down, hopefully, by the end of it.
Yeah, I definitely, historical data, like, it makes a lot of, it's something that you have to pay attention to, right? And it's, hope is one word, right? You can't sell certainty in an uncertain world.
Right.
You know, but if you take a look at the historics and you look at the data and you look at trends and you look at simple economics, right? Supply and demand is everything. You're going to find comfort there if you can interpret the data the right way, or if someone can help you interpret the data the right way, right? You know, like you said, you don't, you know, it's no indictment against people that maybe aren't up on the industry statistics, or maybe they're focused on other things and they're not naive, but it's just they don't know.
Right.
You know, it's not an indictment against them. It's just, how do we become, you know, if you're playing this space as a professional, how do you become the most knowledgeable, but not so much knowledge as, well, you have to be able to articulate it and give it to your client, right? To help them find comfort of, like, you know, talking off a ledge essentially to say you're making a good decision.
Right.
It might not seem like the best decision right now, but you're making a decision right now that historically is going to work. Right. And that's the comfort that you can find.
Like, in the Contra Costa County, like, there still isn't so much inventory, right, on the market that outweighs the amount of people there are that need to buy homes. Right.
Affordability is the big problem.
Right. So it's like, in that scenario, that math scenario, things won't crash like you think they will, or some people do.
Well, I feel like the reason like it won't crash, like what people have in their mind or think.
They're hoping, right?
Yeah, or not. I mean, I hope they're not hoping, right?
Some buyers are hoping that, I mean, I can buy it
right.
cheap, right?
Yeah, but the chances are their money's not going to be, not going to go further, right? It's the same equation.
It's the same equation. But the reason that I feel like what's preventing that is that, again, people have equity in their house. They don't, like, just because everyone decides to sell at the same time, or there's more inventory on the market, or, you know, there's not as many buyers because money's really expensive right now, doesn't mean that the person selling their house wants to give away their house for X amount under what they think it's worth just because that's what it's worth. Most people have a lot of equity. They're not in a bad position. They don't, you know, most people, I would say, don't need to sell as of yet.
There's not a lot of fire sales, right? So that's the trigger that happened, you know, when the market crashed, right? The market crashed. Fire sales were happening because you had a lot of loans out there that were basically growing people's principal balance, right?
So they were paying more per month.
You were able to pay a minimum, multiple options. So it was like an option arm, they called them, right? And it was the ability to pay like a minimum payment, which, you know, could have been somewhere around $1,000 for like a $600,000 house. Or you could pay like a portion of the interest, a larger portion, or like principal and interest payment. So they gave you like these options. And as long as you made the minimum payment, you were in good standing with the bank. Well, what was happening is, let's say, you know, for simple math, you made a $1,000 payment, but your true house payment was $5,000. All of that principal and interest that you didn't pay got tacked onto your balance. Nice. So your balance was growing without you knowing. Right. And then they put a term on it of like a 1, 2 year, 3 year, or 5 year term, where whatever term you chose, you had to either refinance within that first year, 2 years, or whatever that term was, and get into a better loan, or get into something different, maybe another arm or something like that. But because of that and the timing, all the properties that were sold in that like 2005, 2006, even 4 time, is that all ballooned around the same time.
And
then they ballooned
out,
at the same time where people are like, oh, wait, I have to make a $6,000 house payment?
Right.
No one told me that.
Exactly.
I'm not going to do that.
Right.
So that's when fire sales happen.
They're like,
And
yeah, we can't afford this. We need to
we
let this
either
go.
need to
Yeah.
let it go. I'm going to walk away from it. You can have it. I'll take my Escalade boat somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like, I'm out. And that's what we saw. And we saw that throughout the nation. And that's where the fire sale came from. And that's what's not now.
And that's the difference.
Because you had the equity.
It was poor lending practice, right?
It was poor lending
practice.
So
and they
people had
learned from
equity
that.
back then too, is what you're saying.
People had equity back then, right? I remember one time when I had bought the house, I was like, oh, shit, my house is worth $700,000? I only been here for 2 years? I said, that's what I'm saying. I was like,
Right.
I'm in.
Right.
Like, I'm killing game at 25.
Right.
You know, but that was not the case because it's right when everything happened, it was like,
it's like
boom.
fast,
And I was like, no way.
Right.
Like, this is not what was told.
Yeah, now you feel gutted. You're
Yeah, like you are sick. You're pitted, right? And you're like, okay, cool. But that's not happening right now. There aren't these loans that are out there that are so creative or negatively amateurizing on the balance right now. Everyone's basically in a 30-year fix, especially in the last 3 or 4 years. Like there's no reason why
Payment
you
isn't
wouldn't.
changing. The only reason why people would have to get out of their houses because they couldn't afford that payment anymore. Maybe they lost their job, got hurt,
Exactly.
whatever the case
or
may be.
yeah, debt is piled up and you
Right.
got to do the
or
thing.
they can't afford their lifestyle anymore.
That's
Yeah.
it. So those are the things that I think are the adjustments that I don't think people want to make is lifestyle adjustments.
right.
I don't think it's, but
don't
I
wanna go
think
from
people
their
were
Rolls
forced
Royce
to
to-
because of 2020, forced to stay inside, forced to enjoy, the things that maybe they already own and not go out and travel. But now we're seeing this like lightweight Gatsby scenario where we just want to be out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I'm feeling it.
You're feeling it.
I'm feeling it.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Right
we-
now.
Spritz all day.
right when they let us
Golfing,
get out.
spritz,
Spritz, golf, Denali's. Just give me it all.
Right, it's like the good life, right? Like everyone was making money. Everyone was, even during COVID, people were making a lot of money. They stayed home.
Absolutely.
COVID restrictions started lightening up a little bit, and people
Were investing money, and Robinhood killed it.
Right.
Like everyone was like, "Oh, I'm a stock
Right, yeah.
analyst now."
It's the good life. People are going, buying cars and all types. Like everyone
Everything.
was living the good life, and once you get a taste of that, it's hard to.
It's really hard to let that let that
It's
go.
hard to give it back. So
And I think that's the difference that we're going to see is what does that fall off look like? And inflation plays a big part in that because if they're trying to slow us all down.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
we
you're
all
looking-
want it.
Well, they're trying to slow us
We
all
all
down.
want it.
We
We all
all
want
just
the good
want
life.
everything,
Everyone's waiting
right?
for it.
And
Suckling at the teeth.
even if you're looking at, the way the market is or economy is, like we're getting so much negative information every day.
And
Like,
that's-
there's nothing positive out there.
And literally, I was, I think I was on the car ride over here. I was just listening to Tom Ferry. He's like, you don't see a headline. They're all scare tactics. No headline is something
Nothing, bro.
nice. Everything is like a scare. The headline is like negative.
Yeah.
And that's just what media wants to do.
That's what they're going to want to do. They want us to stop spending. They want to stop flying right now. I mean, you're looking at like airports even around the world. I mean, Canada also did 100, it was like a point raise or 100 bip raise, like for inflation for their rates, like yesterday, the same day. It's crazy. Like everyone is feeling it in the world because the world stopped.
Right.
You know what I mean? We are economically we're consumers, dude.
For sure.
That's all we want to do. We have no patience and
what we've
no
been conditioned to do.
self-control.
The
We just
people-
want to buy
But the people
everything
that are
in
controlling
masses,
inflation
dude.
and all the stuff we're talking about are the ones that fed us. You got,
Yeah.
Oh,
you gotta
yeah,
have
we can
this.
get into that
You need to
discussion
get
next time.
this.
But like,
it's like,
prices,
you
dude.
throw food on the table, we all start eating it, and we get fat, and they're like, start pulling, like, okay, they don't know how to control themselves.
literally.
We're gonna start pulling some food off the table, put
it's-
some broccoli on
yeah,
there.
the people that have quote unquote control of these things, they know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing. It's definitely like a chess. chess game.
I feel it though. Like
Chess match.
How do you stay in tune? And
I'm in
read it?
the market for a house.
Yeah.
Like I had a goal of purchasing another home in 2022. And when I started the process, you know, I was kind of looking, but I'm like, okay, my lease is up at the end of the year. I want to move it off. I'm going to probably start looking around a certain time, but I've always kept my eye out, like, to see what deals are out there.
Right.
Obviously, interest rates have been going up, and I feel like I tell my clients right now, like, right now is a perfect time for me to talk to my clients, because I'm like, you know, if they're buying a house in this market, I'm like, hey, I am too, and I feel your pain.
Let's give Ms. Rose a hey. He put an offer on a house today.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm trying to,
You're practicing what you preach.
I'm practicing what I preach, but I also feel what the buyers are feeling in this market, because I looked at the type of loan that I wanted to get that made sense last year, pretty much. I'm looking at today.
It's tough. That's a staggering number,
And
dude.
it's tough. Like, I'm looking at almost a 9% interest rate, because
Right.
I'm going, you know, a bank statement loan, non-QM, because I'm a realtor, because I'm a business, because I don't have a W-2 job that, you know, I don't report my income the same way. You know, I'm looking for more creative loan opportunities, and which obviously come at a higher interest rate. And so I'm looking at even though rates are 5.6s right now, I'm looking at an almost 9% interest rate.
You could, I mean, if you do that particular program,
If I do
yeah.
that program,
Like, and
you know
that's,
what I mean?
But that's,
it would have made sense. That same
would-
program would have made sense last
you would've
year
had
at a 6%
six.
rate.
It would have been great.
It would have been awesome. I would have been perfect. Now I'm looking at, for a $600,000 house, I'm looking at a $5,000 payment a month,
Right.
which is like, and even last month when I put in an offer on another house, it was at 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I feel what the buyer's feeling in the market right now. They're feeling the same thing.
You are the buyer in the market.
Yeah,
right now.
they've exactly. They're
But that
feeling the
allows
same
you to have a
thing.
lot of compassion, right?
Right.
For
Right.
the discussions that you're having.
So I get
for
it,
the people you're leading.
And I got to
right?
put my money where my mouth is too. If I'm
Yeah.
telling you, hey, go, you just do this, weather this storm for a little bit, I got to back up.
And I think that plays into, you know, the conversation of just like, if that's your goal and you can afford to achieve that goal, right? Like your finances, everything shakes out and you're willing to part with the money or the time to get that house. Why would you slow your goal down?
Right. And it's not just because it was my goal. Like, that was one reason. That's one reason why I'm pushing myself to do this. But it's also, I do feel like there's opportunity in the market. I feel like we're finally able to negotiate as buyers again.
Right.
You know, before we couldn't do that. Before, every house that hits the market, you have at least five offers. That's if you're lucky. At least 5 offers within the first couple days.
Preemptives, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Before.
And you're moving every single contingency. You're putting, you know, you're giving X amount of your own cash over like, it's just crazy before. And, you know, it's just what we had to do to make it work. But now we actually have negotiating power back. And so I feel like when I see that, I'm like, okay, now's a good time to go find a deal.
Right.
You can get the
You can get the
house
deal. You
want,
can get the
dude.
terms you want.
Right.
I mean, I shook up the San Francisco realtor market going in there with all contingencies. They looked at me like I was crazy.
And you were catching it at that time.
At the I might have been the first person to come in San Francisco and put an offer in with every contingency.
Blaine Johnson.
And they're just like, we haven't seen this in 2 years. Like, we don't do offers like this.
You about to.
Sure enough, offer accepted. My client's in that home.
Yeah, happy
And,
guy.
Yeah, happy customer. You know,
Yeah.
client. So I was like, things change, and you know, you just got to rock with it and roll.
No, I definitely do.
I just got a text message that my buyer's property appraised today at value.
Another win.
That's a huge
Well,
win, dude.
for me, it's
Congratulations,
a
bro.
win. I don't know if it's a win for my buyer, so sorry, client. Well, we
Whether they wanted
Should've
to
been
not
30K
appraise and they
less.
want to negotiate.
well, we
it?
kept our appraisal contingency. But here's the thing. So I put in an offer it was listed at did they drop the price? I think they dropped the price. It was listed at like $589 or something like that.
Okay.
There's one same exact floor plan that sold like a month ago for $605. I tried to offer $605 with $15K credit towards closing costs to pay down her rate. They said absolutely not. They didn't even entertain it. So I was like, all right, well, I tried, right? He was like, he saw that one sold for $605. He won $605. Very stubborn seller. So they were saying no. Ended up coming back. We started negotiating a little bit more. We ended up at $610. I rose the price to $610 and still asked for $10K back, not $15 anymore, $10K, because that's all we really needed. was kind of just
Right.
trying to find the real.
Yeah.
I was
What's
throwing
the
up the
real
Hail.
number?
The first play of the game was a Hail Mary. I was trying to score a touchdown.
Yeah.
Didn't work, but we still had the whole game left, so it was all good.
Yeah.
Ended up getting that accepted. I think I feel like my buyer wanted that to not appraise so that we can renegotiate the purchase price. But I feel like if that happened, he might have been like, "Well, I'm not giving you 10K."
You're getting yourself into a sticky situation.
Yeah, you're better off with it appraising at 610 with the 10K.
Take your wins when you get
yeah,
them.
Exactly.
You know,
So
take your wins.
I got that, but that also goes to show that the appraiser must have looked at that last comp at 605 and still gave me value.
Yeah. So which is good.
Which is good, right?
That's great information.
We just got her rate from 5 something to I think 525 or something like that. Or it was supposed to be 499. Hopefully we can get that.
Get 499.
So yeah,
Good stuff.
I don't know.
Rates or whatever. So you were born.
Marry
what
the
year?
property, date the
Marry
rate.
the house, date the rate.
It's true.
Yeah. Marry the house, date the rate. You can't. You don't want to get rid of the house. You want to keep the house.
Yeah.
But you can always get rid of the rate.
You always change the rate.
Change the rate, dude.
Refinance, baby.
Getting
When it
that
goes
tatted.
down,
Marry the house, date the
Capitalize.
rate. Marry the house, date the rate.
Getting that tatted.
Get that tatted. Let me ask you a question. So you were born in what year?
90.
1990. What month?
May.
May 1990.
May 23rd.
May 23rd. Shout
me.
out. May 1990. Your average interest rate, 30-year fixed, 10.4.
That was the interest rate there. See?
And you had to pay 2 points.
We're at half of it, guys.
You have to pay 2
for
points.
that.
See?
And you were born in
91.
91.
April
91.
April 12th.
You got a nice rate, dude. 9.5 for 2 points.
A little less than
December
Where you at
1982.
now?
Yeah.
December
Hey, it kind of comes
1982.
full circle.
When I was born, I'm paying the interest rate of that.
December 1982, 13.6 at 2 points. 2.2.
Compare that. Compare those apples, folks.
Yeah, that's
Compare
crazy.
those apples. You're 6.5 that you might have in a couple months.
Yeah, paying like
Just
2 points.
love it.
Just
Yeah,
enjoy
I
it.
mean, and
Enjoy
you're gonna see
You're good.
you're gonna see again, like we have negotiating power. We're seeing price
Right.
reductions in certain areas. Well, in kind of all areas.
I've seen
Sellers are. I know agents are advising their sellers to pay down people's rates.
Yeah,
I've seen
that's
it on.
huge.
I've seen it
What a
already.
great
being
gift,
offered.
right?
Yeah, it's an awesome gift. I mean, so you're gonna get a better price than you would have last year.
100%.
I'm not even. If you're my client, I don't even want you to pay the same price. I want you to pay. I want you to get a better price.
Right.
So
So
I'm
you
gonna
get a better
fight for
house,
you, right?
You're
Like
probably gonna get the house.
the
you
better
want.
house, and
Yeah.
you're gonna get a better deal. I mean,
Yeah, you're not going to settle for something that finally I can get my offer accepted on because
Right.
I've been denied 15 times.
Right.
Yeah.
And then finally, okay, I just want a house. Like you're going to be able to potentially go into that first house that you love and be able to capitalize on the opportunity.
this
Yeah.
is sick.
And you're like, that wasn't a thing, 5 months ago.
Yeah, not even.
Not even
Not
close.
even. And then beyond that, it was last 2 years.
Last 2 years,
we were
right?
having
Yeah.
that.
But so
CeeLo, I want to get a little nerdy. I know we did some numbers. Do you have it on there?
I do not have it on here.
Of what you remember, I mean, we just looked at, homes that over the past 2 months, we've looked at how in every city basically that we work in or area that we work in, we're looking at listings that have sold versus listings that are on the market, single family home.
Yeah.
Right? Do you remember where the most opportunity is in terms of listings on the market plus maybe drop in over
homes
asking
sold,
or over asking?
definitely. I mean, call outs, like if you're looking at like super East County, like East Bay area, Brentwood had a significant amount of gap that that was created between what was sold last month and what's on the market now. Brentwood, Oakley was trending up there.
As they have more
as
inventory,
they have more inventory than
less
what's being
and then
sold.
less
yeah.
over
Yeah.
asking, right?
Yeah,
Longer
I'm
days.
shopping with my client in
know,
those two cities right
I mean,
now.
you could get a great property in Brentwood
right now.
right now, probably for, it's not pennies on the dollar, but I mean, you're getting a deal and you can probably find some amenities within that property that you were able to get.
Epic open floor plan, 4-bedroom, 3 baths that are sitting at $799.
You pulled up one that had like a pool,
Yeah,
right?
there's one that's
4-bedroom
been on the
with a
market
pool. the
I'm
other
gonna
day,
go.
like,
I'm trying to give them $50K.
buy that
Right,
house.
right.
I
And
literally-
a pool in summertime,
$50K
like
off that $750
You're
for that
closing,
house,
and I'm jumping in the pool.
I'm literally like, that's my goal right here for Tuesday.
I know, like,
I think it's gonna happen. I'm gonna put it into the universe.
if you're talking about the San Ramon Valley
region, the Mount Diablo region.
Mount Diablo region and San Ramon Valley, I mean, San Ramon has a lot of properties available right now in comparison to what they're selling on a monthly average. That's a big one, right?
And Alamo, right?
Alamo too. Like, so like if you're got some buyers in those areas, I mean, I know that's big. I mean, Oakland was pretty steady. There's some areas I think of like the Richmond area.
Yeah, I think, well, if I can remember correctly, San Pablo, inventory has gone up, but other like Richmond, Pinole, Hercules, I don't
Stayed
remember.
pretty steady.
Yeah, it's pretty steady.
Yeah.
I know Berkeley, that area was almost like not even, Berkeley,
not even
Albany,
impacted.
like El
Not even
Cerrito, like
impacted.
not even impacted.
Not even impacted.
I know like
Hayward.
La Marinda wasn't really impacted, like Orinda, Lafayette, Moraga, like really not impacted, but like, Hayward.
Hayward is a good opportunity, I think.
I feel like, and just looking at the demographic of people in those areas that you're speaking about, like La Marinda, like these are people that are going to stay in their home.
Like Moraga, like completely not. It's almost not even a part of the housing
You
market.
just take those kind of out of here.
Yeah,
Well,
like
those
take those
people,
out of
like,
here.
you know, they're, kind of an
St.
older
Mary's,
demographic. They
St.
bought
Mary's
their home. They're staying
College.
there until.
Yeah, there's professors there. Same thing with Berkeley. Like, it's a lot of professors and Cal Berkeley people. Like, they're there.
They're not going to leave. That's
Brentwood, Oakland, I feel like is like more like, newer development houses,
Absolutely. Bedroom
right?
communities.
So they're like, all right, like.
I think the call out too, like on the data that we were pulling, this is like our second time actually pulling this data for the most part and trying to just create our own trends to follow. But over asking percentages, that's I think is gonna be a cool call out and a cool stat line to watch for us, as we go into this shifting market. And what's cool is that's where you can communicate to your buyers. Obviously you're going to communicate some tougher conversations, I would imagine, with your sellers. Yeah. But for the most part, and just setting that expectation. But for the most part, your buyers are should need to see that opportunity. Like that's a stat line that should encourage them. Like we said, marry the house, date the rate. Right. But that's a stat line you can encourage to go, hey, you can get in for this house. We don't have to go super, super aggressive. We can be a little bit more patient, but we'll get you into that better house.
Exactly.
I mean, you're going from a market where you're over asking is
damn near double digits in some percentages.
Like there's people going $1 million. There were people going $1 million over asking. Bro. I mean, which is all relative, but still, like you're going $500K over asking, $1 million over asking.
Yeah,
like
Piedmont was
to a market where we're going $5K is like we'll do the trick over asking just to be nice,
right.
just to be nice.
Right.
Like Mr. Smith, like it's almost like you're like coddling the sellers, like we'll give you $5K over just so you don't feel like
I'm shooting shots at $50K under.
We're gonna make you look good, dude.
We're gonna make you look good to your neighbors. We're not gonna completely kill the stats in your neighborhood, but underlying, we're going to ask for like the most credits back possible.
Right.
To pay down the rate. You know what I mean? Pay down the rate.
But also, that's good too. It's a little slight market,
not
market manipulation, but it kind of helps with the market to keep the praises up.
And we don't make, what the market is. Right. The market makes the market.
Yeah.
And that's where this little quote that I came up with the other night, the truth is what you see. The truth is what you see. If the market's telling you, that's the truth.
Yeah.
Pretty true, dude.
It changes.
Are we done? We ended with that.
I think that's where we end it. I think a lot of nuggets were dropped.
Josh is going through it in the corner. Right
He's sweating. That's
Shout out to him for showing up today.
I think that's just a great way to start the Together We Rise podcast.
Shout out to the media team.
Yeah, shout out to the media team
making this all possible. For getting here,
coming all the way up from San Diego. San Diego.
Yeah, you can't make this stuff up. Well, fellas,
I'm out, dude.
Till next time.
Yeah, I'm hungry. But we're gonna have some guests. Stay tuned. We're gonna have some guests, right?
Yeah, we'll
do some guests.
We'll have some guests.
Hopefully, we're gonna try to get some cool guests too.
Yeah.
Like we want people to actually want to watch us.
So, anything else that people want to hear, talk about, see, have interest in? Go in the comments. Write what you feel you want to hear, and we'll definitely take a look at that and try to implement those things.
We'll try to reply.
As well.
I know we're gonna have hundreds of comments.
Man,
let me tell you.
Yeah, so we'll try to get to everybody. We will. Yeah. All right, one love.
And again, this is Together We Rise podcast.
Signing out.
Signing out.
Later, dude.